All right. And with that, we're to the point in the agenda here where Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you and we'll take it from there. So very much appreciate you coming by, and I got to do a couple of quick things here for you. And with that, you should be in business, Terry, if you'd like to take the screen.
Okay, let me know if you see it.
We see a map that says Minnesota Department of Transportation.
Awesome. So just a quick introduction on myself. My name's Terry Holcomb. I work for MnDOT, have for 34 years. And I'm the system architect of the Regional Transportation Management Center. We're the people who put up the changeable message signs over the road, have all the cameras, all the ramp meters, detectors, to count cars. So I'm the one who's in charge of all the design of that, but I also have maintenance under me. And so I always like to look out on the maintenance side. And we work very close with our locating department because, they're here to protect us. So I know some people have seen a little bit of a presentation on Georilla. This is a little bit newer, and there's definitely things that I want to show the group that I think you'll find amazing. Georilla is based on GeoMoose, which I believe started at the city of St. Paul, and kudos to them. I know we've done some stuff to enhance it, and I think I'll be able to show some of that to you folks. To start with, kind of at the left, we organized it, I don't want to say definitely by functional area, but a lot of it is by functional area. And Georilla doesn't have much for data of its own. Georilla gives you the ability to act like you're a GIS wizard, even though you're not. It's a real simple interface, and it connects to all kinds of different databases. Because one of the big things we've learned over the years is if you copy and change data, pretty soon you don't keep it, it's corrupt. It's different here than it is there. So what you're seeing in Georilla is looking at the core data as opposed to us manipulating data and it going off in a different direction, which I think is so key to what I believe this group is aiming at, is getting good data and exposing it. So I'm going to run through a few things just real quickly. And for those of you who have seen some of Georilla before, I apologize, but you can make it look however you want. When you start it up, this is what it looks like, and I really hate that interface because it's dark. So I'm going to do everything I have in this background just because I think it comes through clear. I'm going to start with the stuff that I work with daily and I'm more so in charge of. And this is the stuff, when you look at the underground utility, it's like, man, we could share this out so easy. Lots of politics involved with that issue, but I think you'll be impressed with what you see. I'm going to start with just showing our traffic management system. And, we actually are a statewide network, but you can tell we're heavily concentrated in the Twin Cities. We've got some stuff in Duluth. But for the most part, I'm going to stick in the Twin Cities since we got such a high concentration of stuff. With this, you could zoom down, and this is just showing the traffic management assets. It's not showing lighting. It's not showing signals. But it's showing you a lot of data. And when I look at this, the big thing is, can you trust the data? So when I select on something, and this is the data that's around that, and this is telling me there's a 1.5-inch conduit, 144 single mode fiber, it's in place. And this is key, it's GIS sub-meter accurate. So we have things that are, it'll say CAD or hand-drawn, and because if we were only to deal with the data that we have high accuracy on, I'd only be showing 70% of our system. So we had to have a way of representing that it is high accuracy or not. We also go into ownership, when it was installed. And I heard somebody earlier talk about the asset management system. This is the link to it in our asset management system. So the data in the asset management system, it's all tied back to the same place, and that is to go to the not duplicating data. There's other stuff in that conduit, so it's giving me more information, and I could even go through now and show you what's on fiber 1, fiber 2, fiber 3, fiber 4, and how long it is. So it's the drill down effect. We need to make this interface work for all the different groups, and so that's where the drilling down, you don't want to show all the information from the beginning because it's just too much depending on what you click on. So that's something that I find really important, is how we represent our data and who we could use it, or how we could use it. I talk about our detection when I said we monitor all the cars. If I identify on a detector, this is a virtual loop GPS, a bunch of information that lets us know. And since this program is connecting into other programs, we create all sort of linkages. So on the traffic side, this is what it looks like in our controller. Again, not very interesting to somebody that just wants to know it's there. But now our maintenance guy uses this and he has access to, oh, that's on pin 3, pin 5. He just has immediate access to it. Or we could actually get into the controller, look up on it, and find out, when it was installed and things like that. The possibilities of the linkage, it's your imagination is at the farther, or if you can imagine it, this program seems to be able to do it, is where I'm heading. I created some favorites that I use a lot, and I'll go into those, but I want to show you how it's an enterprise-wide system for us, because Bridge has their information in there, and I can find out all the bridge numbers that quickly. If I wanted to see in 2015 where we had graffiti, I'm actually going to shut off my view just to clean it up. And I could actually click on there, and somebody took the graffiti, picture of it before they cleaned it up. So we can actually track how many times we're having that type of a problem and where it's at. Again, this is important to them, but it's not important to me. So, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't slow me down. It doesn't cause any problems. Now, some underground structure things, if I want to look at drainage, I want to look at structures and pipes, here is all our structures, structure numbers, our flow direction. If we had slotted drain here, if there's ponds in the area, I could have the ponds show up. It tells me what type they are. If there was storm tunnels in the area, which not all areas have big storm tunnels, they'll actually pop up on there so that you can click on them. One of the things that we're getting more and more into the environmental things, and is there spill areas that people have to worry about for any underground digging or things like that. The environmental side of it, is there bumblebees that you have to worry about? Is there bats that you have to worry about in your area? And like I said, I'm on the design side, so these are all things that we get brought into when we want to do a project. We have to manage these things and expectations. geological assets, groundwater control areas. And some of these areas I'm going to be the first to admit I don't use, and I don't even know what they're trying to tell me. So I guess there's a blanket drain there. We also have earth retaining walls shown, you know, so if you're designing in a project in an area, you need to understand where you can and can't do things. And hopefully, I mean, I'm not boring you guys showing you this, but I'm really trying to show how, you know, through a simple interface, all the different things that are at our fingertips. Lighting systems, you know, here's every roadway light in the metro on highways. And as you drill into them, you know, and these are all coordinate correct. And they, unlike the traffic management system that I showed at the beginning, they don't necessarily have all the lines connecting them. Their initial data collection was just based on the pole itself, the above ground. But you also can interpolate from that, there's lighting cable in the area. All the newer projects that MnDOT is doing, we are actually collecting high accuracy GPS on those, and so that you can get that information. And of course, I'm trying to select those and have it show the information, which it normally does, but I'm not going to let that slow me down on this presentation. Proposed lighting. So they actually are putting in proposed lighting systems now. So you know when there's work in an area coming up, and sometimes proposed means that it's already there, but it's just not finished with construction. And this is a real underground locating issue, because at what point do you show stuff is in the way and that you need to be careful where you're digging, or you're locating and you find a cable and you're, you know, what is this? So having it show proposed is also extremely important to us. And, you know, Murphy's Law with presentations, things that you want to just click and have it pop up instantly, it's just not always happening that way. But in general, this is Georilla version 3, and its speed is actually pretty good. I'm going to actually let this kind of grind through, just because depending on the database it hits, you're also at the mercy of the data you're gathering it from. And this most likely is going to our eDocs system and pulling that data. And at some point I am going to give up on it too, but well, and again, lighting is outside my area, so this might be something new that they haven't deployed fully yet. I'm just not as familiar with it. Miscellaneous systems, you know, we have anti-icing buildings around the metro at key assets. And, you know, the bridge here, 169, the river bridge up here, you know, there's the curve down here, curve here, the river bridge here. This just lets you click on them and you can get in and get drawings to them as well. Projects. We can actually show you projects that are in our annual STIP. And this is, you know, important to a lot of people as well, because then you can go in and you could ask people questions, especially if you were looking at upgrading systems in the area, and all of a sudden you see MnDOT is upgrading the roadway possibly, or you need to get a plan set. You now have something you can reference instead of making cold calls and saying, I know there's a project out here, I don't know what SP it is. This is just a good way of representing that to folks. Public utilities. We use this one a lot, and it's the simplest one, but what is my service area? You know, is Excel serving me, or is Dakota Electric serving me? So as you zoom into these, This is Elk River Municipal Utility. This is XL Energy Utility. This is all stuff that, especially if there's a problem in area, a hit, somebody isn't marking something, you actually are able to go in and easily see, because a lot of times it depends on which side of the road you're on. Shakopee Public Utilities is serving this side, but over here it's all Excel. So we find those very helpful as well. I don't even know if the high power transmission lines are on here, but I guess they are. So you can actually get a layout of what voltage they are, where they're located. We have that the national pipelines are on there. People don't realize how many pipelines there are, and you can definitely tell where there's a refinery. And I'm not going to click on all these. I'm really going to get more into on the traffic management side, but I am trying to show you the wealth of knowledge that is available, and in my opinion should be shared. I don't control this for MnDOT. MnDOT is going to have to make a lot of decisions as these groups like yours move forward with data sharing and how we would do that. But there's just so much at our fingertips. These are boreholes for what the ground is like, and if you wanted to know what you're going to run into in an area, you can actually get into the soil logs, and these things mean stuff to people that understand soils. It doesn't mean a lot to me, but in 2017 in this area, 4-inch auger and all that information is available within just a few clicks. You can see how MnDOT is rating their highways for good, poor, fair, and you can see we definitely have some roads that need improvement. Roadway barrier, we could show you where there's guardrail, where there's different termini of those, and actually get into the information on those directly. You could show where your airport influence areas are. You could just show where your runways are. Bikeways, which is a real big thing these days. There's bridges, ped counters. I mean, the data is almost endless on this. Transit, where are our bus shoulders? Where are our park and ride lots? Transit routes. A lot of transit routes in the metropolitan area. Asset management, I'm not going to go into that one because I'm going to show it a different way. Statutory routes, control sections, trunked highways, which there's a difference between all different types of highways, and this is, if you ever need reference to it, this is controlling that. Now I want to get into the RTMC section a little bit more as I show this. Earlier I showed you how I could turn our system on, and here I know I'm going to show our proposed system. So this was the Lake Street job. So in the proposed system, you're able to show your new. You could turn on the old system and show the way it was. You can turn it back off, and this is giving you that. But it's also, we're able to show you our abandoned systems. And to the underground world, this is sometimes as important as showing the current, because the abandoned systems are what give us problems so many times. So, and this is on the traffic management side, but so this is all the different areas where we've reworked stuff, and this is what causes locators headaches. on the device level, I could turn on just our cameras. And if you ever think you're being watched, well, you tell me. But you know, I need to throw this out. We're not Big Brother. We're the kind uncle. We're the one that when you're in need, we're getting you the ambulance, the tow, anything like that sooner. So just remember when you see all this that we're not Big Brother. We're the kind uncle. Here's our messaging signs that are telling you about accidents and travel times. If you ever wonder how many ramp meters we have, you know, there's like 432 of them. Non-interstate road closure gates. Well, we got to get out to the outstate, and you could see where we have these gates for this winter type situations we have where we could shut the road down. MnPass readers. I got to go up and shut off. I think that was anti-icing. Here's where our MnPass readers are that are, or EasyPass nowadays, it's been renamed. But this is the information for the areas where we have toll readers and you pass through the zones and get counted that way. MnPass beacons, these are the ones that are simply telling you, they're the lights that you see that flash as you pass by them. Gate arms on the reversible system. And really this is just showing you the granularity and the things we chose to break off. And because you can show it all as one big lump sum, but the information, being able to break it down, makes it more usable for the group. When I talked about detection, when I showed you those detectors, you know, we've got like 7,000 detectors in the roadway around there, around the metropolitan area, counting cars, giving speeds, therefore allowing us to do the travel times. We've switched to radar detectors, and so we're deploying those. And you can see it's not everywhere, but the loop detectors are going away, and now we're going the non-intrusive. The DSRC detectors, this is a kind of a future talking to the car type thing where we've prototyped the, you know, the self-driving car where we will be able to talk to them. We have a test corridor out there. Structures, you know, buildings that we connect to, our communications shelters that we all the cables run into for collecting data and bring it back out. Our cabinets, these were all in that overall system view that I showed you, but this lets you break it down again just to see the cabinet and the power cabinets. Our fiber optic splice faults. So we run everything on a fiber optic network, and these are all our fiber optic splice faults around the metropolitan area. And where we actually are splicing the fiber, these are those. Now, I want to show you something that we're working on that, again, I hope I'm not boring anybody with this, but since this is an open source software, we're able to link and do many things. We're creating our own fiber optic schematics within, yeah, I don't want to say it's within Georilla. Georilla has access to it, but so there's how my fiber optic cable, you know, is basically spliced to pigtails connecting to all those cabinets, which, I don't know, this is, in the industry, I find this kind of groundbreaking type of information to put in this type of a system. And I don't know, what excites me may not excite the group, but it is just showing the power of it. This is that same cable showing cable in the structure. This is that same schematic without the detail, but I can actually click on any of these hot links then, and it jumps me over to a more detailed, and I can also trace the fibers from one end to the other. So although this is work that is not deployed yet, this is the actual development that's at about 80 or 90%. So this fiber strand goes from here to there to connect a device. Let me go back over here. Handholds, you know, again, where all your conduits and cables lead, junction boxes, ped gates. We have our, you know, we could show our service cabinets for our power, where our power poles, the few places that we happen to have generators to run our system, LP tanks. I mean, you can see how that list goes on and on. I could break it down to just, if I just want to see the fiber cables through the area, that's showing the fiber. Wireless connections, you know, here's the above ground stuff, and we don't do much for wireless connections. And
Terry, if I could suggest, we're coming up on the end of your time slot.
okay.
I'm sure the group here has questions for you. At least I do. And so if we could, let's open the floor and see what kind of questions there exist at this point.
Yep. And there's just one last thing I want to show is like our locators don't care what group it's from. They just want to locate it. So when they turn on their level, they get kind of everything thrown on there that we have, because, you know, they don't locate just one thing, they locate everything. So this is, all this data is what is out there that I think the intent of your group is how to share this type of stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
I would love questions, and I apologize if I wanted to show you too much.
And just real quick, Terry, thank you. It's a fast question. You mentioned that we have to contact somebody in order to ask about sharing the data. We're developing a prototype, so I wondered if you could tell us or tell me who I should contact regarding sharing this data for a prototype.
I think Trish Stefanski, and why don't I hop into here and pull up her name so you can get her contact information.
Thank you. That's great.
And am I able to post something in the chat, or, because I mean, it's Trisha Stefanski. That might be the easiest way, is just for you to copy it down.
Okay, I see that. Trisha, okay, state Minnesota.mn. Thank you.
Yep. And you know, she will tell you that I have been whining to her for a number of years at the need to do this. And because I look at it from the design side, consultants working on our system, this is that same, you know, if you're a registered user, you should be able to get to this data, and it helps out everyone.
Terry, can you talk to the point of where a lot of this data is sourced from behind the scenes? I mean, you're talking about different systems, but do you have any like specific system names or process or formats?
So each group is in charge of their own data. So, but starting like 5 or 8 years ago, all the groups are now, for new construction projects, getting as-built in a standard format. And those are being brought in to be represented here. But like lighting's doing theirs, our group's doing, you know, the traffic management. And so the data owner, if you selected on any of these, you can actually find out who the data owner is through the metadata. And but it's too big of an entity to be centrally controlled and managed. That's why it's into the groups that do the work. And so the RTMC takes care of the RTMC type things.
But I'm talking more about the data management side of it. Well, is it coming from Esri, an Oracle database, you know, MSQL? You know,
I believe we're keeping it in an Oracle Well, no, it's connecting to many databases because most of the traffic management is stored in a Postgres. I believe Bridges is in an Oracle database. So there are multiple databases involved here. And, you know, Postgres is a free, you know, database. The Oracle's not. This program doesn't depend on any specific type of a database. And I think that's the strength of it as well.
Terry, a question I would have for you is all these breakout categories, were they defined by, for instance, a North American, I forget whatever the appropriate name for it is, but there's a published list of breakout categories. How did these categories come into existence? Was that decided internal?
It was organically, and it was internal, because I could tell you Georilla 2 and Georilla 3 had totally different names for stuff, because, you know, we use this for ourselves, and I wasn't even aware that there was a naming function. And so yes, it definitely is that way.
Okay. And is the data in the interface that you're showing that us, is this statewide?
Yes, it is.
So it isn't just Metro.
Correct. When I, you know, if I turned on lighting, you'd see lighting statewide. I do the ITS side, so the ITS information is statewide where we have it. But if you were looking at storm sewer or whatever, that would show up statewide as well if you turn that on.
Okay.
And real quickly too, like if you were a locator in the field with my data, I geo-referenced every plan sheet. So if you're out there scratching your head because you don't know what you're looking at, you actually could just click on that and then pull up the plan sheet for it that constructed it. So that was something we did a few years ago, and I basically gave about 120,000 pages to a consultant, said scan these in and geolocate them, and now that we're caught up, we're now doing it internally. But you know, anybody who's been in the field, having a plan sheet to kind of act as a decoder ring, I think, is also part of the critical path. Quick,
Terry, Brad, Henry, I got a couple of questions for you, if you're ready to go.
Yep.
Number one, are you aware of the Elk River project?
Deeply, yes.
Okay, so getting back to what you just showed here, there's such a thing as a plan sheet, but I think you're well aware that isn't necessarily how the project gets built out in the field.
Yes.
And so my first question is, are you guys actually putting your as-built into your database, or are you putting your plan sheet in the database?
So what happens is when we do the, when I show the system, when we do the proposed, we're putting in, we extract it from the CAD file and we put the CAD file in as the proposed. And when we receive our as-builts after the project is done, we actually go and change everything to the actual as-built nature of it. And then on a design build project, we'll get new plan sheets that will get incorporated. On non-design build, the plan sheet that was put out to build it is what's attached. But that's why it's so important to know if it says GPS as, or, you know, accuracy GPS submeter, you know that's been modified to that effect.
Right. I think you're well aware of the high accuracy that they're doing out in the Elk River project. So are you also, are you showing here, I believe on the Elk River project, they made their link over to the asset management database, you know, working through Tricia Stefanski and maybe
Yep.
with you, I'm not real sure. So do you have an example of that in your examples that you're showing us?
What I can show you is like our asset management, you know, work orders. So our TAMS database, that is the key to everything as far as the way MnDOT is storing it. I'm just going to show you something where, you know, these are open tickets for repair, but this is the linkage to the asset management database. The asset management database is fed by our own information for the ITS as assets in the area. I have to zoom in. So this is actually a direct link to TAMS. The work order number is that. And so we have 100% interaction with our asset management database.
Where would I see? Do I see that number in this? I suppose I should put my glasses on if I'm actually looking at those really small letters.
And I'm going to show that a different way. I'm going to turn on the cameras once and show you something that's, you know, I think is rather cool, but I'm also a nerd. So if I identify on one of our cameras on the side of the road, and I decide the camera's not working, I want to log it in our asset management. I now have a direct interface to the asset management database that is now linked to its inventory and everything, and I can now write it up in the asset management system.
Yeah, okay. I think that was kind of what I was getting at. So that looks kind of slick. Would you hazard go down to Hennepin Avenue and show us what utilities you've got down there? Because actually Steve and Barb show a nice rendition in 3D of all the utilities right underneath Hennepin Avenue. And I think it's either Hennepin or 4th is actually it's actually a MnDOT route.
So now let me.
Hennepin Avenue right downtown.
Well,
Hennepin, Washington.
And I don't know, and let me just, I'll try, because most of this falls on the freeways, because cities of the first order are in charge of those other roadways. So even though it's a MnDOT route, when you look at Hennepin Avenue or Central through here, St. Paul, Minneapolis, places like that, they're considered cities of the first class, and they are responsible for all those. So when you see the signal systems and things like that, you'll see in St. Paul and Minneapolis, they're red. It means they're on a state route and they're controlled by the city, if that makes sense. So, and I'm not saying there's not data in here somewhere. It's just being that I am a freeway-centric person for what I do with traffic management, I'm not as familiar with the off-street stuff.
Okay. Yeah, Hennepin has been reconstructed in the last year, so is 4th and so is 8th Street. And so my question was if you had their underground utilities in your file.
Yeah, it would take us about 20 minutes to ingest it, and it would be there. The changes we've made to things, it's amazing flexibility. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, no, I think what you're showing here is pretty amazing. I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, so nice job showing it to us.
Well, and you know, just even on the working side of it, I showed you all the detectors we have around the metro. Our software for running the entire system looks at detectors and it determines if they're failed. And so this is getting a live feed showing us where our detectors are acting up. So we have live feeds, we have static feeds, we have historic feeds. It doesn't really care what kind of feed you're giving it. I could even show you on the operations side, you know, where were all the incidences in 2019? So these are all stalls, crashes, you know, staggering amount of data when you shouldn't leave the house actually once you see this. You know, you could tell your likelihood to get in an accident.
Can you track Barb's movement this morning or not?
Well, and actually, if she went down a MnPass lane and she gave me her number, I probably could.
I don't want you. I'm not giving you my number.
You know, and you know, even to getting out to a site, if you wanted to see where the current instances are, this is one of those things where Normally it pops right up, but or there's no instances going on right now.
And do you do Highway 52 to Rochester? That road is so dangerous.
You know, I actually am from southern Minnesota, very familiar with Highway 52. And 2 years ago, I put a fiber optic system down it with all the cameras and everything. So we now at least have that covered, so we can get good information all the way down. You know, and I'm part of the project for rebuilding the area and with the work that's going on right now by Zumbrota. Definitely, we've got our fingers in so many pots right now. You know, if I want to show you the areas I didn't know GPS data, or it's only a portion of the GPS data, because I have lots of GPS data, but sometimes you have legacy data that sits within it. So this is on my to-do list.
Gary, who would like a city like St. Paul talk to about maybe setting up some sharing connections with this kind of data? A lot of the stuff I have available at the city overlaps everything that you've been showing us here. And if you were interested in seeing that stuff along state routes inside the city, I have a lot of that information available already.
Trish is really probably one of the primary keys to that. I mean, I have access to my own staff that's works with my stuff and helps pull it in. But on the official level, Trish is more in charge of the making those type things work.
Okay, Barb, can you just copy me on the stuff that you talked to Trish about?
Will do. I'll make a note.
Thanks.
Gary, I had a question for you. With all the different layers and things you have in here, I'm not sure if you're thinking in terms of field level more for locating with all the information. Do you guys has there been any attempt to map marker balls? I'm not sure if you're even familiar with what they are.
No, we use the 3M marker balls, but we don't have those mapped because they should be inside our standard for about the last 25 years to put them in every handhole, vault, whatever. And so all our locators do have those readers to grab the marker balls. Huge fan of them. I like to get out there and get my hands dirty, and they've saved me a lot of work in the past as well. So again, to show somebody everything inside of TAMS, or excuse me, Georilla would take an exceeding amount of time. And the thing is, it's not in Georilla. It's a central spot that goes out and grabs it from everything. And for these layers to be exposed, and the data can be dumbed down if needed. There's lots of things you can do, but knowing the data is there, the data's been collected. That's so key. I just showed you what the signs are at that location. I mean, there is, I want to share this information. I'll be very clear on that. But I also know that I am not MnDOT. I and Trish actually started the as-builting of our system and recording it and getting into Georilla and also the enhancements. So it is something near and dear to me. And the locate side of it, I mean, if you ever cut a fiber optic cable, you know how important it is to protect it, because it's going to cost $20,000 minimum to fix it.
Sure.
But if we were all tasked with just creating stuff for our locators to use, we would never do it, because nobody cares about the locators, right? They're an afterthought. And I use this on the design, planning, troubleshooting, and that's what makes this data so important, is it's multi-purposed. And I could show you where my network routers are on here. I could show you where my Ethernet switches are in here. I could even show you where my cellular modems are on here. Is this important to underground locators? No, but the fact that everyone wants to get their data in here now makes it where they have the most up-to-date data on everything.
Okay, we're coming up on being a few minutes over on your presentation. Well, I think we can take one more question if there's one out there. And then Terry, I think we need to move on.
No, I
got a really quick question. I know it's self-serving, but you clicked on a hyperlink that took you to showing you the fiber counts. I think it said Django.
Yep.
What software is that?
Django is another open source software, and our programmer has developed that fiber interface. And like I said, it's only at 80 or 90% right now, but it is, I know why it's important to you, because that's why it's important to me, because we use paper right now and I'm trying to make it all electronic. So you can trace device to device, building to building, what's on what fiber, and pretty much everything we do is open source. And
that's what I was asking. We have our own GIS database, but that's one of the difficulties is finding a way to have a schematic. So that's why it was interesting. It looked pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that it'll serve the needs as businesses like government at least need it for. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
It's kind of a wrap up. My sense is that there's several individuals in the group that would like to maybe converse with you further. I'm not sure the level of contact information I have for you. Could you be sure to send what would work, and then along with Trish's information?
Sure. I will send it directly to you. And like I said, I'm real shy and I hate to talk about the system, as you can tell. So I've done nothing but traffic management for 32 years, and I started collecting GPS data just on a here and there back in 1998. So I saw the need then, and I think it just, good data never goes bad.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. We really appreciate it.
And can I show you one last thing real quick, because I forgot?
Okay, go for it.
So I just pulled up the cameras, right? Well, now if I hit select and I draw a polygon box, because I never showed you any of the output, and I tell you I want cameras and I hit go, I now have all that information here. But I can also now export that into an Excel file that shows up here. So when you're looking at different ways you could use this program of all your data, this is the type of stuff that makes it so fascinating. So
thank you so much.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry.
You can steal the screen out of my clenched fingers now.
Okay.
Steve and Bob, how close is this Georilla to your Fusion View, given that apparently has the ability to pull from different types of data sources?
They are exactly the same. They're both using GeoMoose as their underlying component that pulls all that stuff together. Georilla is built on GeoMoose. Matter of fact, a lot of the recent developments were from a MnDOT contract for the GeoMoose project, which is an open source project. And they're using it and extending it, as you've seen, even further than the city has been able to do it, at least recently. A lot of the stuff that they're doing is very interesting and can be used by other agencies as well. So the way that it's put together, yep, it's same DNA.
What I think is really interesting is the degree to which, if we could pull the MnDOT data selectively for items that serve the locating construction purpose, that would be a gangbuster development. I would think right out of the gate, it would be a bump up on what they would have available. At least that's the way I'm thinking of it.
Well, that's kind of my interest in being able to share back and forth with the city, because that'll help us kind of develop or de-evolve how the back end works, what mechanisms they have available, all that kind of stuff. Because once we get the sharing between us two kind of figured out, that'll kind of point to other ways that other things can be done.